Government 2305, Module 1.02, Liberty, Positive or Negative? No idea comes up more often in American history than freedom or liberty. We will be using these terms for our purposes interchangeably. The National Anthem declares America, the land of the free. During the Civil Rights Movement of the 1950s and 60s, high school students spilled out of Baptist churches and marched towards dogs and high-pressure fire hoses singing, "Everyone shout, freedom, freedom, freedom." The Statue of Liberty is inscribed, "Give me your huddled masses yearning to breathe free." A group of conservative Republicans in Congress established the Freedom Caucus in 2015. But what is freedom? It means that the government will protect your life, your liberty, and your property from coercion of others, including public officials, in order to permit you to pursue the goals you define for yourself. Freedom is the ability to pursue your own desires without interference from others. While we will use the terms liberty and freedom interchangeably with each other, it must be understood that not all freedom is the same. In this course, we will be examining two types of liberty as foundations of American government and politics: negative liberties and positive liberties. Negative liberties prohibit governmental action against citizens, and positive liberties require governmental actions for the benefit of society. Everyone agrees that freedom is a basic American value, but in practice, Americans disagree about what it means and what government should do to ensure it. There are two views, as we just mentioned: negative liberty and positive liberty. The more familiar view is negative liberty. In this view, freedom is the absence of constraints. Society's responsibility for this perspective is to make sure that others, especially government officials, do not interfere with individuals. The government protects your right to believe what you wish, to say what you'd like, and to practice any faith or none at all. Negative liberty firmly limits governmental action. Libertarians believe that public officials violate your freedom when they collect taxes from you to feed the hungry or punish you for smoking marijuana or tobacco. But libertarians also interpret negative freedoms as the right to act as you want without hindrance or restriction from the government. Positive liberty is the ability and provision of basic necessities to pursue one's goals. This often requires governmental intervention in order to promote such liberties. President Franklin D. Roosevelt forcibly expressed this view in 1941 as the United States prepared for World War II. He proclaimed that the nation was fighting for four freedoms: freedom of speech, freedom of worship or religion, freedom from want, and freedom from fear. The first two, freedom of speech and religion, were traditional negative liberties. No one could interfere with these rights. But freedom from want was something new, a positive liberty that involves helping people who have fallen on hard times. Roosevelt was suggesting that social welfare policies such as unemployment insurance and Social Security were part of the all-American ideal of freedom. Individuals, in his view, cannot be free if they lack the necessities of life. So every citizen should have food, shelters, health care, and educational opportunities according to these four freedoms. Today, the idea of positive freedom is always changing. And what served as a shining beacon for Americans to follow in 1941 are a little dimmer and more tarnished today. Several semesters ago, I was teaching on this concept in a Government 2305 section, much like this, and I discussed the idea of pulling yourself up from your bootstraps as a basic tenet of Texas government and citizenship. Then a student responded with a question that I would like to leave you with. How can I pull myself up from my bootstraps if I have no boots? That's what FDR was talking about in his Four Freedoms speech, especially freedom from want and freedom from fear. Liberty, or the freedom to pursue your goals, is the most often evoked American value. Liberty and freedom are interchangeable terms for our purposes. There are two different views of what liberty means. Negative liberty emphasizes a lack of constraints on individuals, even if those constraints are intended to help others. Positive liberty calls on the community to help everyone satisfy their basic needs. Freedom has expanded to new groups over time. Some scholars see the rise of freedom as inevitable, reflecting American ideals. Others see it as a constant battle that can always go either way. A popular phrase, particularly when supporting the military, is the idea that freedom isn't free. Many believe that our freedom has been purchased with the hard work and sacrifice, often to the last full measure, of our military forces. What do you think? Is freedom inevitable, or must it be constantly fought for?